Howdy gamers, Hydro here. So I know a bunch of you were asking me, and so I decided I will deliver um on how to build Citrine. Because I mentioned Prismatic Companion, and then y'all were like, okay, but what about the rest of her? So fine, I'll explain. Now there are multiple layers to building any Warframe, and I'll go through them bit by bit. But first, let's talk about staying alive, because in Warframe, if you're not alive, you can't do much, you know? So, yeah. So, there are two main ways of surviving as Citrine. Now, the first way is gonna be damage reduction. Damage reduction is the most simple and, in my opinion, most straightforward. We've got adaptation, which gives you up to 90% damage reduction on hits that you receive. Now, note that it is going to be that on attacks that have a mix of elements, it will only resist the highest element. No, the attack with the highest base damage, or the element rather. So it won't be a full perfect 90% all the time, but most of the time it will. Then, of course, that will go in conjunction with preserving shell, which gives you another 90, so it's about 90%, 99% most of the time. And of course, shields have 50% flat damage reduction, and Citrine's base armor does give you 46% damage reduction as well, which is lower, but she does have more health, especially because I'm running Archon Vitality. Then on top of that, I'm using Arcane Aegis, so that when I'm soaking up the hits, there's a chance that I just immediately trigger a bajillion shield like shield generation. And that basically makes me invulnerable for a few moments. So you see you got 90% DR. Now note that it does tick down, but as you can see, we're getting knocked down, we're getting hit. We don't even have like a shield restore mod, by the way, and it's still doing quite okay. And then of course you see I'm using Fractured Blast. I'm getting killed with Fractured Blast, and that gives me orbs, which will heal me. It also staggers enemies, which means that they can't hit me for a short period of time. Good for survivability. Then you could see there for a moment Arcane Aegis triggered, moving my shields back up. So again, super comfy. You don't have to do anything special. It just gets the job done, keeps you alive. Good stuff. The other way that I've seen people play Citrine, which is not my personal preference, but like, go off, is to run her with shield gate. So they'll run catalyzing shields, they run blind rage, and they run brief respite. Now I think they might also run like other ogre mods, like maybe like 2 ogre mods or something. And then yeah, that's probably about it. I don't know what else they build, but it is a way you can build Citrine. I just am not a personal fan of it. Like, I get, like, you can, like, as you can see, if I get shield gated, I can immediately go back to more than full. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm just not a fan of it. Especially when she has so much damage reduction instead. So yeah, I would personally recommend adaptation, aegis, and then you just cast preserving shell, and just survive that way. So that's survivability out of the way. The rest of your survivability comes from actually playing the game. Meaning, every time you hit stuff with your Fractured Blast, it does it does stagger them for a bit, so that does give you a bit of time to kind of get some breathing space, maybe restore some shields, just regenerate some health, etc. Fracture Blast also gives you the health orbs you need to keep your health up. Then you've got Prismatic Gem, which I'm trying not to kill the guys, but basically it inflicts heat, cold, toxin, and electric. These statuses do have their own forms of like CC when they afflict an enemy, and of course if you get to full cold procs you can freeze them, so there's a lot going on there. Furthermore, enemies get CC'd by her crystallize, like so. So there's so many ways to just keep the pressure off. Yeah, so I would say this is the most comfy way. I would not personally recommend Shieldgate on Citrine. So that's that. Now, of course, we are staying alive. Very good. Now, how do we do damage? So damage from Citrine comes in two forms. We've got crit and we've got status. This is good because most of the time in general content, you're gonna need both. Status is good against most common enemies. So like these guys over here, they are generally best to defeat using status effects. But if you were to find an enemy, and I don't know if I have one scanned, but let's see what I have scanned. But if you were to find something with like status limit, right, meaning you can only afflict up to 4 status procs on it. I don't know. Sure, let's just summon Gendro. Why not? Are you status limited? You are not status limited. Okay, my bad. But yeah, if you find an enemy which has like max 4 status procs, for example, then you're gonna want to use crit. So the way you want to do status is you want to just pump two things. You want to go with a bit of duration, and you want to go with a bit of strength. Now, I run Archon Continuity because it improves your damage even more by adding an extra status, Corrosive, and Corrosive reduces the armor of enemies, so that means they take more damage as well. Well, I mean, the armored ones do. So that makes your Prismatic Gem very strong and makes it last longer. Then I'm running Prismatic Companion rather, for more duration. This also makes it move around with my free moving companion, so it means that I can carry it around to extermination missions and all that, no problem. Then I've got Blind Rage and I've got Umbral Intensify for strength. I would say do not run Umbral Intensify unless you have the Umbral Former. It's a bit much of an investment, I understand, and most people would not bother. Just normal Intensify is actually good enough. If you wanted to put a V polarity or put transient in here, that's also okay. It's just not what I do. And yeah, then we've got Stretch, we've got Cunning Drift for range, just to complement the fact that my gem is now moving around with my pet. And Vitality, Archon Vitality, to inflict more heat. Because more heat procs means that my gem hurts even more, which is exactly what we want, basically. So that's like the damage side of things. The other side, oh, the status damage side of things. The crit side of things is literally just cast Crystallize. Now, when you find an enemy that, like an Acolyte, for example, that's like the one time that you really need to run Crystallize. You Crystallize, you prime them, and then you just hit the crystal. Now, I do understand that some people who are just addicted to the red crits, and so they might put Recrystallize. I personally would not recommend running both Recrystallize and Prismatic Companion just because of the mod space. But yeah, you could run Recrystallize for a more crit heavy build. Also works out because, yes, you Recrystallize, you kill one enemy, and then the crystals all spread to everyone nearby. You do need a decent amount of range for it, but it does get the job done. It does make critting enemies a lot easier, especially with a bigger kind of projectile weapon, which is super good for weapons with a low base crit chance, but in my opinion, it's not entirely necessary. So you can kind of forego Recrystallize for basically most content and instead just run Prismatic Companion. Alright, so we got damage. Now, sustain. Sustain comes from Fractured Blast. Sustain, it gives you health and energy orbs. Much higher chance to drop health orbs. You can see that I have Blind Rage here, which reduces my efficiency, but because I have Arcane Impetus, it offsets it a bit. Let me show you what I mean. So, efficiency-wise, you see we have 7 stacks of Arcane Impetus. Now, my stuff only costs a little bit more than the base. A manageable amount in my personal opinion. With just Blind Rage, it would cost a lot more. Actually, let me try and take off. Gee, wait, if I just do this, no, it holds on to it. Can I reset suit? It doesn't work. I don't actually know what reset suit does. But we'll wait for it to tick down. And then we go to abilities. Actually, you can just go look at it here. You see 77, 116. So it does lower the cost from offset of Blind Rage by a little bit and makes it manageable. For me to turn health orbs into sustain, I am using a singular Tau Forged Purple Shard for the equilibrium effect. If you wanna, you could run equilibrium in your build, but I mean, you kind of have to figure out where you want to fit it. You could lower your ability strength. You could maybe lower your range. It's up to you. Here where it's Archon Vitality, if you don't mind losing the double heat proc, you could technically put equilibrium there, but basically the moment you have access to Archon Shards and get a purple shard, I super recommend running just a singular purple tower, or even just a normal purple shard for sustain. Yeah, so we've got that. So we've got damage, we've got sustain, we've got survivability. That's basically a Warframe build. But there's more to a Warframe than just those 3. Sorry, my throat's a bit hoarse. You're doing this in one take. we've got the weapon. Now, when you are building a Warframe, you do want to look at what they're running as well. Because, yeah, you can be a caster, yes, but weapons are undeniably a very strong complement to any Warframe. So, because she doesn't have an Exalted, especially, Citrine does need decent weapons. So, here is my Steplos, and the reason why, well, obviously it's her, what should we call it? Signature. It's her signature weapon, which you hopefully means that it complements her. And in the case of Citrine, it does. You see, the Steplos, even though it has a low base crit chance, it has a higher than average crit damage, which means that crystallize with the red crits that it forces is extra handy, basically. And then obviously you pop on like Prime the Ravage and it becomes 4.6. It's just good stuff. You can run crit decel as well to turn the crit chance to 42% so that it can kind of hold its own, but it's like it's still lowish. So yeah, I personally do that. I run crit decel and then I have a Riven for a bit more crit chance. Obviously this is not like the craziest of Rivens, but it does what I want it to do, so it's good enough for me. I also run Cannonade to lock the fire rate. Obviously, you know, I could technically have run like Shotgun Barrage or something else for fire rate. What else is that? Magnetic Strafe, I guess, but I didn't feel like it. So this is my build. It may not be the best build, but it's mine. Then the alternative to running the Steplos would just be like anything with punch through, basically, because you want to hit a lot of things at the same time. You could run the Coda Basses, for example. You could run the Tenno Archoplasmor. Even like bows with punch through, like the Dread. Although I would argue that Dread and Daikyu, etc., kind of don't need a lot of help from Citrine, so it's kind of meh. Another weapon that I would say is at least fun, if anything, on Citrine is the Godva Prime. Because the Godva Prime with the extra 252, you're critting all the time. I mean, well, it's not obviously not all the time, because you know there's still the percent chance, but you're critting a lot. And then you pair that with Crystallize, right? You can crit literally all the time as well. So, yeah. Godva Prime is a fun weapon, in my personal opinion. But, mostly you want the Steplos, to be honest. The other good weapon for her is indeed her other signature, the Chorophel. It, on its heavy attack, now, maybe citation needed, but I am pretty confident that I'm right. But it should have multiplicative gun CO. Weapon CO. Whatever the case, this is a beast of a heavy size, especially with all of the new toys we've gotten. So, yeah. This is my Chorophel build. Condition overload, because I'm quite sure it's multiplicative. Yeah, multiplicative. Amalgam Organ Shatter, as well as Killing Blow for heavy attack wind-up speed. And then to balance that, I'm running Galvanized Reflex for initial combo with Focus Energy. Now, not a lot of people will tell you to use Focus Energy, but the Chorophel, it does like a double shot, basically. It goes like Bop, bop, right? And the issue with the second shot is that it's so fast after the first shot that if you don't have 90% heavy attack efficiency, the second shot just isn't gonna be as strong. So I highly recommend running Focus Energy, and then to turn it into magnetic, I put Vicious Frost. Now I made it magnetic because I wanted to run Melee Vortex, because Melee Vortex pulls everything together, meaning that I can just shoot in a singular area, and that one ball is going to hit everything. And we got Weeping Wounds just to increase my status. You might be able to run Elementalist, but let's see, 5 times 40 versus 5 times 40 is 200. 30 times 4 is 120. So Weeping Wounds is better. Elementalist will increase the damage of the heat procs because it does have innate heat, but I don't think it's that worth it. Now for secondary, I personally would say Compressor, just so that if you see a big enemy you can prime, but you could argue for anything with secondary fortifier. Basically you just want it to have magnetic status and secondary fortifier, and you can just grab overguard from any enemy you see. That is, however, up to you and how you play. So this is just how I play. I see like an acolyte, I crystallize it, I bubble it, I shoot it, it dies. That's how I play. If you have your own ways, then, you know, who am I to stop you, right? Have your fun. Yeah. So we've got that, and then let's look now at the Archon Shards as well, just to gloss over them real quick, because I mentioned it earlier, but I forgot to like explain. So the Archon Shards for Citrine, you're going to want to go with at least an Equilibrium Shard, I would say, very important. Then a max stacks for Corrosive Shard is nice. Citrine with her weapons does obscene amounts of damage, so you probably won't even hit like 10 stacks, not 10, yeah, you probably only hit like 10, let alone 13 stacks of corrosive most of the time. But if you're against a big enemy, it is worth it to have that extra bit of armor strip. And the next one I have is casting speed. Casting speed is super important in my opinion for especially casting crystallize. The other ones are a little slow, but mainly with her fourth ability you need the casting speed. Then the last two are, in my opinion, flex slots. Max energy field on spawn is nice, but you can always just run a squad energy restore or play Xenoric. And then ability duration shard is again completely up to you. I just use it because it means that I have a bit less upkeep to worry about. Yeah. On the topic of Xenoric, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, what you run for your focus school. If you want to run Madurai for like Void Cascade kind of stuff, or like Last Gasp, that's completely fine. But if you wanted to run Xenoric just to top, like to really make sure your sustain is like on top, that's also okay. You could run Uneru so that you don't get knocked down, because this frame does not have status immunity nor knockdown resistance. Could run Naramon if you wanted to build a melee. Yeah, I don't know. It's completely up to you. Now we go to the companions. Now, if you are running the Prismatic Companion augment, you do need a free moving companion. That means it cannot be a sentinel. So your Hound, your Predacite, your Kubro, your Vulpaphylas, your Helmet Charger, your Kavat, all those are fine. But carrier will not carry. Let me just say that. Carrier will not carry your gem. Neither will Nautilus Prime or whatever. Oh yeah, Moas can also carry your gem. But yeah, anything that walks around on its own can hold your gem for you. When it comes to building your companions, now there's a few things you could look at. Since if we're going the status route, especially, which I would say is quite... Actually, I think building Citrine is basically running a status route, because most of a kit is status, right? Contagious Bond is gonna be very nice for just a little bit of extra spice, you know. If your companion just, you know, gets a kill, you know, boom, right? Suddenly, the entire like group of enemies around are not feeling very good. Then Seismic Bond is nice for the extra efficiency, especially if you run Blind Rage. Manifold Bond is good because you're basically always going to trigger Manifold Bond. Because you're always with like 4 unique status effects. Yeah, Duplex Bond is just whatever. I just put it there because I like it. Yeah, so that's like what you want to look at. If you're running melee with Citrine, I would say run something with Pack Leader so that you can keep your companion alive. Yes, mainly it's just Pack Leader. Another notable not arcane. Another notable mod you can run is Synth Deconstruct for energy, health orbs, because you have the Equilibrium Shard, so it's a bit extra survivability. Yeah, those are the main things. The final thing I'd say regarding companions is if you run a Vulpaphyla, do not run the Devolution precept if you are running the Prismatic Companion mod, because these two things conflict. If you run Devolution and you run Prismatic Companion, well, let me just show you. Let me just go invincible. I don't need invincibility. I just need to turn on that AI. Right. So I cast Gem, right? And Gem is now on my Vulpaphyla, right? Now, once my Vulpaphyla is down, you see that it becomes this Sentinel, basically. What happens then is that it drops the Prismatic Gem. Now, when my companion recovers, anytime now, there we go. Where is it? Yeah. When your companion recovers, the gem does not return to the companion. So you have to recast in order to reattach, which, in my opinion, it's a waste of energy. Instead, just run without the devolution precept, and you will be good to go. So yeah, that's basically it. Ooh, half an hour of citrine yapping. Well, yeah, that's basically it for building Citrine and building everything in her kit around her. I hope you have learned something. I would like to know what you guys do with your builds, how you like to play her, what kind of weapons do you find very fun on her? Because I love exploring kits and different ways that you can play. So I would like to hear from you what you guys do with your citrines. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Or you could also join the Discord in the description. Or you could tweet it at me on Twitter, also in the description. But yeah, hit the like button if you felt that this was helpful, and if you like Citrine, and I'm not gonna say hit the like button if you enjoy Tiana Pass, because I know a lot of people don't, even though I do, but like, you know, it's kind of like, whatever, I guess, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinions. But yeah, subscribe also if you would like to get more videos, especially about Citrine, but also other Warframes as well, because I do play other Warframes. Citrine's just my fave. But yeah, that'll be it from me. Take care of yourselves, be good to yourselves, stay hydrated, and I'll see y'all in the future. Bye.